Dave Palumbo here with an RX Muscle supplement and science review. Today we're going to talk about injuries and how to repair injuries and what the best cocktail for repair is. A lot of people ask me, Dave, what should I take? I pulled a muscle in my shoulder. My rotator cuff is hurting me. I tore my pec, tore my bicep. I have to get surgery. What should I do to repair it? I pulled a hamstring muscle in the gym. There is a definitive cocktail that I've put together over the last couple of years with all the surgeries I've had. Just recently, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Hafthor Bjornnson, aka Thor, aka the Mountain from Game of Thrones, one of the world's strongest men, has won the world's strongest man title before. He's had boxing matches with Eddie Hall. Probably one of the most well-known strongmen on the planet at this point, and one of the biggest, that's for sure. He was trying to attempt to set the world raw, I guess, powerlifting total record of bench press, squat, and deadlift, and he was under the bench at a meet, and he had 556 pounds on the bar, and as he lowered that bar, very slowly and controlled. I was pretty impressed too, because he is a raw lifter. You heard this horrible sound you never want to hear, the snap of a pec muscle. And he kind of shrieked in pain, which I probably would have done the same thing.
Let's go. What's up? Get it down fucking hard. Get it down hard. Breathing.
Come out.
Breathing. Squeeze that shoulders back.
Heels down hard.
Luckily, the spotters were there. They took the weight off of him, and now, according to his updates, he's waiting to get an MRI, but he pretty much feels as though the pec tendon was completely torn, the tendon off the bone, and it rolled up. So he will probably more than likely require surgery on that. They will take the tendon, they'll screw it back into the bone, and then the repair, and the recovery process begins. First of all, I want to send my, prayers out to Hafthor. I want to let him know that, look, you're not the only one who's ever been hurt. As my dad always said, if you want to be an elite level athlete, if you want to be the best at what you do, you better get ready to, number one, live with pain, and number two, deal with injuries both psychologically and physically, because when you're putting your body out there, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, at the highest level, track and field, it doesn't matter, okay? Rugby, bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman, you're gonna get hurt. It's impossible not to. Even Ronnie Coleman at some point succumbed to injury in his career, even though he seemed invincible. We all are vulnerable to injury. And it can happen at any time, and it never happens when you think it's gonna happen. It just happens. Unfortunately, Hafthor tore his pec. He's a champion. He'll find a way to overcome this. He'll come back. He'll be better than he was before. But right now, he's got a little bit of a journey ahead of him, because he's gonna have to go through the surgery, which is not fun. And then the repair begins, and unfortunately, as athletes, we like to do things. And when you get a muscle repair, whether it be a pec repair, or in my case, I had a quad repair, I had 2 shoulder replacements, you can't do anything. You have to heal. You have to listen to the doctor. However, there are things that you could, what we call, passively do. That means, while we can't actively do anything to train or make this thing heal quicker, we can passively do things. That means take the right nutritional supplements, take the right performance-enhancing drugs, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're talking about, like, the maximum stuff you can do here. Not everyone is going to want to adhere to this, because some people don't take performance-enhancing, type of drugs. But this is going to be the ultimate in healing cocktails that you can possibly do. Now, it's important to understand that you need to have a solid diet. So if you're obviously, Hafthor probably eats perfectly. I'm sure most bodybuilders out there eat great. But when you get injured, you can't just stop the way you're eating, thinking, well, why do I have to eat 6 times a day now? I'm not even working out. Nope. You got to stick to the same regimen. Matter of fact, when I had heart surgery, a couple weeks ago, I was in the hospital eating 6 times a day. I haven't eaten 6 times a day probably in 10 years because I don't eat that much usually during the day, but I went back to my bodybuilding roots and I said, I got to heal myself. So I broke up all my meals into 2 meals, and so they served you 3 meals a day in the hospital. I had double meals. I was eating every 2 hours, 6 times a day, because timing of nutrients, protein, good fats, and some carbs, obviously for energy, are important. They're important to the healing process because that's what your body is using as raw materials. Now, assuming your diet is good, okay, what can you take to expedite the healing process? Well, we know if you watch my video, and I don't know if it's out yet, on joint replacement products or joint repair products, 2 very important components of repair of any kind of connective tissue. And remember, Hafthor tore the tendon off the bone, so that's a connective tissue attachment right there. That's not muscle to muscle. He didn't tear his pec intramuscularly. That's a tendinous attachment, and that's going to involve connective tissue. You got to take glucosamine at very high dosages. 4 grams is minimum. That's 4,000 milligrams per day. MSM is another important supplement because it's a biologically available source of sulfur, which is important for joint and connective tissue repair. So you need to take 4 grams of that per day, minimum. If I were Hafthor at his size, he might even want to take double that, or at least 50% more than that. Instead of 4 grams, take 6 grams at his size. Boron is a very important mineral in the repair of connective tissue. And a lot of people hear the name chondroitin sulfate, but the truth is that glucosamine will convert into chondroitin sulfate. So you don't necessarily need to take chondroitin per se. It doesn't hurt to add a little in there. I have a product called Arthrolyze, and Arthrolyze Elite has all that in there in a very high amount. And I did a video on this product recently explaining the benefits of this product. And it's not necessarily that there are so many special ingredients in here, it's that it's in here at the right dosage. Most products don't put the high dosing that I do in here. This is a month's supply at 4 grams of glucosamine a day and 4 grams of MSM per day, along with some chondroitin and boron, which is important to the healing process. So this is something that Hafthor needs to be taking multiple times a day, always with food. That's going to give his body the raw materials now it needs to help with the repair process. If you don't give your body the raw materials, it's like trying to rebuild muscle without eating enough protein. You can work out all you want. If you don't eat enough protein, you're not going to grow. Same thing with joint connective tissue. It's going to be very hard for your body to repair something at maximum efficiency and at maximum speed if you don't give your body the essential raw materials. We don't eat tendons, connective tissue, and cartilage in our diet. You have to take it in supplemental form. Whether he or any of you guys out there use my Arthrolyze Elite or not, that's up to you. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, I think it's much more convenient. I have a very high quality product in one ingredient, and it's available at obviously speciesnutrition.com. But that's here or there. You need to take those raw ingredients in. You also need to take in minerals. Think about what makes up bone: calcium, magnesium. As bodybuilders, we have a very high calcium requirement to begin with. Why? Because muscle contractions use calcium. The body uses calcium to neutralize acidic waste from all the protein we eat. So when you eat a very high protein diet, your body breaks that down. It creates a very high acidic environment. The body uses calcium to neutralize that. You don't want your body using your bone, to get the calcium to neutralize that. You want your body to have a supplemental form of it. So it's very important that you take a supplemental calcium supplement if you're going to be involved in a high protein diet and bodybuilding. And now if you have an injury, same thing. And you want to use a calcium that is absorbable. You don't want to, it's funny, in the hospital, my calcium levels were low because they were giving me a lot of Lasix initially to get rid of fluid right after the surgery, and my calcium was low. And I'm like, I think I need a calcium supplement. They were giving me potassium, which obviously you need, right, because of Lasix, and they were actually even giving me magnesium. I'm like, have you looked at my blood work? My calcium's really low. So they're like, oh, you want us to bring you some Tums? I'm like, Tums? I'm like, that's calcium carbonate. That's chalk. Yeah, well, it's a good source of calcium. Yeah, well, it's a good source of calcium. It's just not absorbable. They don't know anything in these hospitals, You want to use chelated minerals. Those are minerals that are bound to amino acids. The reason why they're so readily absorbed into the body is because in the stomach, when these minerals hit the stomach digests protein. That means it cleaves off that amino acid that's bound to the calcium or magnesium, and then those minerals can then get absorbed right through the lining of the stomach. So it really expedites that. It really increases the absorbability of those minerals way so more than salt-bound minerals. Now, where are you going to get a good source of chelated minerals? Well, you can buy individual bottles. I'm sure they're out there on the market. I made it really easy. I put all the chelated minerals that your body could possibly need in the right dosages in one formula, along with all the vitamins your body needs in effective dosages, along with some antioxidants as well, in a product known as V-Mineralize. And that's another species nutrition product. 5 pills twice a day. You could even take, someone like Hafthor could probably do 5 pills 3 times a day with food. Those two products, V-Mineralize and Arthrolyze, will work really well together, and you don't have to have 14 different bottles of ingredients to try to get the complement of what your body would need in terms of minerals and vitamins and all that stuff. So that's something that's a convenience that I created really for myself before the line was even made for sale, and obviously now a lot of other bodybuilders are benefiting from that as well. So that's really important. Calcium, magnesium, and then of course you want to take an extra vitamin C, because a lot of people know vitamin C is the antioxidant that it is, and it is a good antioxidant, but it's also a component of collagen and connective tissue in the body. So when you injure some collagen and connective tissue, your vitamin C requirements go way, way up if you want to make sure that you're healing at optimal rates. So I would recommend taking 1,000 milligrams of a regular vitamin C. You can use Life Extension, they're pretty good, 3 times a day, so that'll give you 3,000 milligrams. And I actually take another form of vitamin C as well, known as liposomal vitamin C, which is like a kind of like a time-release vitamin C. Life Extension makes a really good form of that as well. And I would recommend doing like 1 or 2 of the liposomals per day, and then doing 3,000 milligrams, 1,000 3 times a day with food. Of course, vitamins are always taken with food for the vitamin C. And someone like Hafthor, his size, I think that would be something that's really good, the 3,000 milligrams of C plus some liposomal vitamin C, just to have a nice steady, even when you're sleeping, dose of vitamin C in your system. I usually take the liposomal before bed so that when I'm sleeping at night, I have vitamin C available for my body to repair in joint and connective tissue and any kind of collagen that I might have. Now, I'm healing up my chest right now, so my sternum is all made of collagen and connective tissue, so I certainly am following the cocktail that I'm giving you guys today that I think Hafthor should be following. I'm on it right now. Everything that I'm going to tell you about, I'm on, with the exception of one ingredient. I'll tell you why I'm not on that in a second. So we got our minerals taken care of, glucosamine, calcium, magnesium, all the other minerals and vitamins. We have a high dose of glucosamine, MSM, boron for the connective tissue components and raw materials. Now we go to what I call the performance enhancing aspect of the whole kit and caboodle. That's the drugs, okay? We love drugs, right, as bodybuilders, but the truth is that there are certain drugs you should use, certain drugs you shouldn't use, and certain amounts that you should use and shouldn't use, and I'm going to tell you that right now. Growth hormone is a fantastic healing agent, okay? It's not something that I can use or that I will use because I have had thyroid cancer, so I don't want to take anything that could potentially be a growth factor for that. But assuming you have no cancer in your family, or no cancer in your body, or any cancer that you've had prior to that, I would say the GH is safe to use, but you don't want to use a really high dose of it. You want to take about 2 IUs per day, taken in the morning. If you take more than that, you will make yourself insulin resistant, which is not good, which means you're not going to absorb your calories properly. You're also going to cause a tremendous amount of fluid retention. When you're healing a tendon, like a pec tendon, you don't want the muscle super pumped or super inflated with fluid where it's pulling on that tendon. You want the muscle almost to be a little bit on the flat side so that the tendon and the bone can heal properly without there being tension on there. That's why they don't have you moving your arm, too much when you have a tendon repair. because they want to immobilize you so that that tendon can knit with the bone. If you have this muscle super crazy pumped up and it's pulling and pulling and pulling, you're not going to get a good repair. So less is better with GH. Plus, you're not breaking down massive amounts of muscle in the gym. You're just trying to heal a specific injury. So 2 IUs every morning works really well. I'm also really, really big on the healing peptides nowadays. I've tried them out. I've experimented through my shoulder surgeries, my ankle fusion, and now with the sternal repair I'm going through. I find that they work well. I don't recommend buying them from a gray market peptide website. I think that's dangerous because you don't know what the sterility factor is, and especially after surgery, you do not want to get an infection. So I recommend going to a clinic where you can get it, a compounding clinic where you can get it prescribed from a legitimate pharmacy. A place like TitanMedicalCenter.com is phenomenal because they will prescribe pharmaceutical BPC 157. You're going to do 200 micrograms twice a day. You don't need to inject it right into the pec tendon. Okay, the shoulder is close enough. I wouldn't inject anything into a surgical site because of risk of infection. The shoulder is about this close as you can get, right where you need it. That BPC will find its way into the bloodstream anyway and will get to the area that it needs to be. Now you can use BPC 157 along with TB 500 because that's another healing peptide, and at the same dosage, 200 micrograms twice a day. You can take them together. You can take, I usually do 1 bottle of one and then I'll switch to the next bottle of the other just because I don't want to be taking too many different things at the same time. But you can definitely use them together, and in Hafthor's instance, I would probably recommend doing both, the TB500 and the BPC 157 at 200 micrograms twice a day of each of those. That's going to definitely help with the healing process. Along with the growth hormone, you're good. Once again, you don't want to take massive amounts of the stuff, especially growth hormone, because of the fluid retention side effects of it. As far as anabolic steroids, what I would recommend, I'm sure Hafthor was probably on a cycle of a lot of stuff. You got to stop that. I would go down to hormone replacement levels of testosterone. 200 milligrams per week is probably adequate for a guy his size. And I would probably add in, after 1 week after surgery, wait till surgery's over, 200 milligrams per week of Deca-Durabolin. Not the short-acting NPP, the long-acting Deca, because that's going to act as a really nice anti-inflammatory. It's going to definitely help with the healing process, and it's going to keep inflammation down, which is something that we want to do. You want, some inflammation is good. Excessive inflammation, which is going to be the case after surgery, is something we don't want. That's going to be a nice little cocktail right there without causing side effects. Once again, we don't want fluid retention. We don't want the muscle overpumped. We don't want massive amounts of blood in the bloodstream because that's going to pull on that tendon. We don't want that. Different strategy for repair of injury versus building muscle. Remember, less is sometimes better. If I thought more was better, I would tell you more is better. That doesn't mean that people are going to listen. There are going to be people out there that are not going to listen to me, but I'm telling you what works. I've been in the trenches. I've had a lot of injuries and a lot of surgeries, okay? I know it works. I've been doing this for a long time. Another important thing that you really want to look at is your fasting blood sugars. If your blood sugars are running high in the morning because you're eating a lot of food, whatever the case may be, maybe your pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin, you're not going to be absorbing your nutrients at maximum efficiency. So while the doctors would tell you, oh, 100, 105 fasting blood sugars, that's normal. Don't worry about it. That's what they told me in the hospital. I'm like, you guys are out of your minds. You want to be under 90. Okay, so if you wake up in the morning and test your blood sugar and you're over 90, you're too high. In which case, I would recommend, especially during the healing process, taking a long-acting insulin, whether it be Tresiba, which is the best, or Toujeo, which is also really great, Lantus, Detamir, Novolin N, which they sell without a prescription pretty cheaply at Walmart, if that's all you can get. That's what you're going to have to do. I'm not going to go over doses here because everyone needs different amounts. Usually you start with 10 IUs twice a day, morning and night, and keep testing your blood sugars. The good thing about a long-acting insulin is it's not going to make you go hypo unless you really, really overdo it. So more than likely, it's not going to be enough. So you got to keep testing your blood sugars until they get under 90. fasting first thing in the morning. I usually have guys up there insulin by 2 IUs in the morning and at night until we get to the right amount. Some guys have to take 40 IUs twice a day. Some people take 15 and they're fine. You know, some people can take 10 and they're fine. It really depends on the person. But you want those blood sugars normal. You want them under 90, those fasting blood sugars. That's going to help with the healing process. A lot of people overlook that. Now, if you're taking a little GH too, that can make you insulin resistant and that can raise those fasting blood sugars as well. So this will definitely work well in conjunction with the growth hormone. It's a lot of information, but you know what? Slowly watch it, digest it, write it down, because this works. You have to consistently apply it. You have to treat the post-injury period as if you would treat a contest prep. That means you don't miss anything. You don't miss eating, meals. You don't miss nutritional supplement timing. You don't miss taking the performance enhancing aspect of what we're taking here. You have to treat it like it's the most important thing in your life. And I promise you, you will thank me. You will heal faster. The doctor will say, I never saw anyone heal so quickly. What'd you do? Because this works. Giving your body the raw materials it needs, giving it the, I guess you could say, the right drugs that it could possibly need to speed up and expedite the healing process is super important if you want to get back into the gym and get back to doing what you do best, whether it be strongman, powerlifting, bodybuilding, or any other sport. I hope this video helped. I want to send out my prayers and healing energy to Hafthor. You can get through this because you are a champion. We already know that. And you can be a role model for other people on how to overcome adversity and come back and be better than you were before. Dave Palumbo with an RX Muscle Supplement and Science Review.